Hey guys, welcome back. If you've ever felt like your words don't have the impact you want when talking to women, this video will change that. High-value men don't just talk. They command attention, spark attraction, and leave a lasting impression. It's not about using pickup lines or trying too hard. It's about how you speak, your tone, your pacing, and the confidence behind your words. Most men make simple mistakes that instantly kill attraction. Talking too fast, over-explaining, or seeking approval. But once you understand how high-value men communicate, everything shifts. Women start leaning in instead of pulling away. Conversations become effortless, and, most importantly, you stop chasing because they start coming to you. In this video, I'll break down the techniques that separate ordinary guys from the ones women can't ignore. Stay until the end, and you'll never look at conversations the same way again. Let's get started. 1. The power of calm, controlled speech. A man's voice is more than just sound. It is an extension of his presence, confidence, and control. Women are instinctively drawn to a man who speaks with intention, understands that his words carry weight, and that silence can be as powerful as speech. A man who does not rush to fill every gap in conversation with nervous chatter exudes an aura of calm dominance, one that commands attention without ever demanding it. When a man speaks deliberately, his words settle with impact. He does not feel the need to over-explain or justify his thoughts. He says what he means, and that is enough. This controlled manner of speaking signals a deep sense of inner security, a quiet strength that women find irresistibly attractive. Unlike men who fidget, talk too quickly, or drown in their own words, a man with a composed tone stands apart. He does not seek validation through excessive talking, but allows his presence to reinforce his words. Women are highly attuned to a man's emotional state, and his speaking reflects his mindset. A steady, relaxed tone suggests a man who is unshaken, a man who moves through the world with purpose. This sense of unwavering self-assurance captures a woman's attention and holds it. When a man is comfortable with silence, it forces others to lean in, listen more closely, and wonder what he will say next. The next time you find yourself in conversation, slow down, let your words breathe, resist the urge to fill every pause, and instead let the silence work for you. Women are drawn to the man who can sit comfortably in his presence and whose words are measured and meaningful. A man who speaks with calm authority does not need to raise his voice. His silence is often louder than the noise of lesser men. 2. The subtle art of playful teasing. Attraction is not built on logic or long lists of admirable qualities. It thrives in the invisible dance of emotions, where subtle energy shifts determine whether a woman feels drawn to a man or remains indifferent. One of the most underrated yet powerful tools in this dynamic is playful teasing, an art that, when mastered, transforms even the most ordinary interactions into something magnetic. Teasing, when done right, creates an effortless connection. It injects a sense of playfulness, pulling a woman into the present moment and making her feel alive. Women are naturally drawn to men who can make them laugh without trying too hard, challenge them without hostility, and create a spark of excitement in an otherwise predictable conversation. The key lies in balance: confidence without arrogance, playfulness without cruelty. A man who understands this balance teases with intention, not desperation. He does not seek approval after every remark or water down his words out of fear of rejection. When he playfully calls her out for her habits, be it her tendency to be late or her competitive spirit, he does so with a smirk, not a frown. "You love making me wait, don't you?" Admit it, it's your way of keeping me guessing. Instead of causing guilt, it elicits a smile, a moment of shared amusement that deepens attraction. What sets apart a confident tease from an insecure jab is the energy behind it. A man who is comfortable in his skin does not need to put a woman down to lift himself. His teasing is not a test to see if she still likes him. It's a natural extension of his personality. And when he senses the right moment, he knows when to switch gears, balancing playfulness with sincerity. You talk a big game, but let's see if you can back it up. A challenge issued with a glint in his eye makes a woman feel intrigued rather than defensive. Yet a moment later, an unexpected but genuine compliment. I like how determined you are. It's refreshing. Grounds the interaction, making it feel authentic rather than rehearsed. Most men either avoid teasing or do it poorly, mistaking sarcasm for charm or trying too hard to impress. The ones who get it right stand out. They bring an element of unpredictability, making every exchange feel dynamic rather than routine. And in a world where many interactions feel scripted, a man who can create spontaneous, playful energy becomes someone a woman doesn't forget. 3. The secret weapon, making her feel understood. A man who understands a woman on an emotional level holds a unique kind of influence, one that goes beyond physical attraction or material success. Women are drawn to men who don't just hear their words but grasp the emotions behind them. The ability to listen with intent, respond with depth, and create a space where she feels genuinely seen is an art that few master, yet it is one of the most potent ways to build connection and attraction. Many men make the mistake of engaging in conversations to respond rather than truly understand. They listen only to wait for their turn to speak, offering predictable replies or surface-level validation. But a man who listens differently, who lets the conversation breathe, who absorbs her words before reacting, stands out. He asks questions beyond small talk, questions that make her pause and reflect, and invite her to share parts of herself she rarely reveals. Instead of the generic, "What do you like to do for fun?" he asks, "What's something you've always wanted to do, but haven't yet?" Instead of nodding in agreement when she shares a personal struggle, he sincerely acknowledges her emotions, saying, "That must have been frustrating. What kept you pushing through?" When a man engages with a woman this way, he becomes more than just another conversation in her day. He becomes an experience. He makes her feel understood in a way that is rare and valuable. This isn't about manipulation or tactics. It's about cultivating a mindset of genuine curiosity and emotional intelligence. Women long to be with someone who sees them not just as an idea, but as complex and evolving individuals. To put this into practice, a man must learn to listen actively, to mirror emotions rather than just words, and to resist the urge to fill silence with empty responses. He must offer insight, not just agreement, and create a dynamic where she feels challenged and deeply valued. When a woman walks away from a conversation feeling understood rather than just heard, she won't forget the man who made her feel that way. 4. The power of mystery, saying less, meaning more. Attraction flourishes between what is known and what is left unsaid. When a man shares too much too soon, he strips away one of the most potent attraction elements, mystery. Women are drawn to men who make them lean in, spark curiosity, and leave just enough unsaid to keep them intrigued. Predictability suffocates excitement, while a sense of the unknown fuels desire. Many men mistakenly believe that being an open book makes them more appealing, that the more they explain about themselves, their past, their ambitions and their feelings, the stronger the connection will be. But attraction doesn't work like that. The more a woman has to wonder, the more she becomes emotionally invested. If a man answers her questions in a way that invites curiosity, rather than satisfying it outright, he remains in control of the dynamic. For example, a man who understands attraction might say, "What do you do for a living?" Instead of responding with a detailed job description, "I help people solve problems." This response accomplishes two things. It keeps the interaction light and playful, while making her want to know more. It shifts the focus of the conversation onto her, drawing her deeper into the exchange. Mystery is not about deception, but maintaining an aura of intrigue. A man who keeps his responses concise and thought-provoking invites a woman to engage on a deeper level. He doesn't rush to fill silences or explain his every action. He understands that leaving some things unsaid is far more potent than over-explaining. This applies not just to words, but also to his behavior. A man who is not always available, doesn't always text first, and doesn't immediately respond with long, eager messages, signals that he has a life beyond her, that she is not the center of his world. This subtle detachment makes him more desirable, because women are naturally drawn to what they cannot fully have. Humor also plays a crucial role in maintaining mystery. If a woman asks, "Why are you so confident?" an ordinary man might respond with a logical explanation about his accomplishments or personal growth. But a man who understands attraction might say, "I took a confidence course taught by my grandmother." This response does more than make her laugh. It adds unpredictability. She begins to associate him with fun, excitement, and something different. Women remember how a man makes them feel, and surprise is one of the most effective ways to create lasting emotional impact. The key is restraint. Many men need to prove themselves through words, to lay everything out so that the woman understands them completely. But the excitement begins to fade when she feels nothing left to uncover. A man who knows how to hold back, who can leave gaps in conversation that invite curiosity, who knows when to give and when to withhold, is far more captivating than one who reveals everything too soon. When a woman has to work a little to uncover who he is, she becomes more invested, and the more invested she is, the stronger the attraction grows. 5. The art of saying no and setting boundaries. A man who knows how to say no commands an unspoken respect. Women are naturally drawn to men with a strong sense of self, those who do not mold their personalities or bend their values to fit someone else's expectations. Too often, men fall into the trap of excessive agreement, pretending to like things they don't, or suppressing their valid preferences to avoid disagreement. While they may believe this makes them more likable, the reality is quite the opposite. A man who stands firm in his opinions without being argumentative or dismissive is far more attractive than one who constantly seeks approval. A woman interacting with a man who confidently expresses his thoughts sparks a different kind of attraction. If she passionately talks about a particular music genre and he isn't genuinely interested, the average man might nod along, agreeing just to maintain harmony. But a confident man responds with something like, "I respect that, but I've never really been into that genre. Maybe you can convince me." This subtle shift in conversation dynamics changes everything. Instead of appearing as though he's merely going along with whatever she says, he positions himself as an equal, someone with his preferences, but still open to new perspectives. This balance between authenticity and curiosity keeps the interaction engaging. Women are not drawn to men who simply agree with everything they say. They are drawn to men who create an interesting dialogue, a subtle challenge that makes the interaction more stimulating. Beyond the realm of opinions, the ability to set firm boundaries is one of the most distinguishing characteristics of a high-value man. A woman's respect for a man is closely tied to how he values himself. Suppose she suddenly cancels or changes plans at the last minute, and he already has other commitments. In that case, an insecure man might rearrange everything to accommodate her, fearing that saying no will push her away. But a confident man knows better. Instead of over-explaining or apologizing, he simply states, "I've already got something going on, let's plan for another time." This response is robust because it subtly conveys that his time is valuable, he is unavailable at a moment's notice or desperate for her attention. This type of man sets the standard for how he expects to be treated, making him more desirable. The strongest men will walk away when respect is no longer present. A man who constantly seeks validation and chases attention eventually loses what he hopes to gain: admiration. However, a man who remains firm in his self-worth and does not tolerate disrespect or inconsistency holds an undeniable sense of power. Women instinctively recognize this. A man who is secure enough to disengage from a dynamic that does not serve him is a man who understands his value. Paradoxically, the less desperate he is for approval, the more attractive he becomes. It's important to clarify that setting boundaries does not mean being rigid, unkind, or dismissive. It's not about creating unnecessary conflict or playing mind games. Instead, it's about demonstrating self-respect and refusing to diminish oneself for external validation. Women may not always agree with a man's boundaries at the moment, but on a deeper level they admire the strength it takes to uphold them. The man who is unafraid to say no when needed, who maintains his standards without fear of losing someone, is the man who ultimately earns the most respect and the deepest level of attraction. 6. Ending conversations on your terms. Conversations are like performances. How they end determines the impression you leave behind. Many men linger too long, allowing the energy to fade into awkward silence, unknowingly diminishing the impact they had. A man who understands the power of a well-timed exit leaves a stronger imprint than one who overstays his welcome. When you control the conclusion of a conversation, you project confidence, self-respect, and an awareness of social dynamics, qualities that naturally draw people in, especially women. One of the most effective ways to leave a lasting impression is by exiting at the peak of engagement rather than allowing the conversation to run its course until it fizzles out. Instead of passively waiting for things to lose momentum, be proactive, saying something like, "I've got to run, but this was fun. Let's continue this another time." Let's create a sense of unfinished business. It plants a seed in her mind, making her anticipate the next interaction. She isn't left with the memory of a slow decline, but rather with the energy of the conversation still buzzing in her thoughts. This controlled exit makes you appear decisive, socially aware, and more intriguing. Another subtle yet powerful strategy is setting a time constraint early in the conversation. A simple, "I only have a few minutes, but I wanted to say hi," shifts the dynamic entirely. Instead of appearing overly available, you present yourself as a man with things to do and places to be. This naturally raises your perceived value. People are drawn to those who seem busy, in demand, and engaged in a fulfilling life. Women in particular are intrigued by men who carry an air of purpose and direction. Establishing that your time is limited from the beginning changes how she views the interaction. Suddenly, every moment feels more significant, and she subconsciously invests more in the exchange. Confidence in your departure is just as important as the timing. Many men make the mistake of lingering when the conversation starts losing energy, hoping to stretch it out a little longer. This often backfires, as staying too long can turn an exciting interaction into something stale. Instead, recognize when the conversation has reached a natural high point and confidently exit. A simple "all right, I'll catch up with you later," followed by a casual yet deliberate exit, reinforces your sense of self-assuredness. A man who isn't afraid to walk away at the right moment commands more attention than one who clings to a conversation past its prime. This principle applies beyond just casual conversations. The ability to end things on your terms, whether it's a text exchange, a phone call, or even a romantic relationship, establishes you as someone who controls his narrative. Women are naturally drawn to men who don't seek validation through prolonged interaction, but move confidently and purposefully. When you end a conversation at its peak, you leave her wanting more rather than feeling relieved that it's over. The art of knowing when to leave isn't about playing games. It's about understanding human psychology. When you master this skill, you shift the dynamic in your favor. You create a sense of mystery, a lingering thought in her mind that keeps her interested long after the conversation ends. And that, more than anything, is what makes you unforgettable. Mastering the art of communication isn't just about getting a woman's attention. It's about shaping how people perceive you in every interaction. How you speak reveals your confidence, self-respect, and level of control over your emotions. A high-value man doesn't just talk to impress. He communicates in a way that naturally draws others in, creating an undeniable presence that lingers long after he leaves the conversation. When you slow down your speech, you project authority. You create intrigue when you embrace silence instead of rushing to fill it. When you tease playfully yet respectfully, you cultivate attraction without desperation. And when you listen with genuine curiosity instead of waiting for your turn to speak, you form deeper connections that make you stand out. Every word, every pause, and every interaction you have is an opportunity to reinforce the image of a man who is confident, composed, and entirely in control of his value. But true mastery of conversation isn't just about what you say. It's about knowing when to say less. High-value men never over-explain or overshare. They maintain an air of mystery that intrigues others. They don't seek approval through words, but let their presence speak for itself. And perhaps most importantly, they understand the power of setting boundaries. They don't bend over backward to please others, nor do they tolerate disrespect. If a conversation starts to drain their energy or shift in a direction they don't like, they have no problem walking away without hesitation. The final key to assertive communication is knowing when to leave. Most men let conversations drag on until they fizzle out, but a high-value man knows that going on a high note keeps him in her mind. When you're the one to end an interaction, when you leave while the energy is still intense, she will find herself thinking about you long after the conversation ends. So now the challenge is for you. Which of these techniques will you start implementing today? Will you slow down your speech to command more respect? Will you practice playful teasing to spark attraction effortlessly? Or will you work on setting firmer boundaries and walking away when necessary? Whatever you choose, pay close attention to how people react when you apply these principles. Especially women. You'll quickly notice how much more magnetic, respected, and desirable you become when speaking like a high-value man. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever noticed how a slight change in how you speak can completely shift how others respond to you? Which of these strategies have worked best for you in past conversations? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love your experiences. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss insights on mastering communication, attraction, and personal growth. Until next time, stay confident, intentional, and level up. See you in the next one.